many years ago when I wanted to be an accountant. That was my career of choice. So I was at such a crossroads and getting a bit frustrated. But then I decided, you know what? It's okay. Don't just look at what you've lost, aka, my job, my, support system back home, and like a path that I could see my career moving to, but think about what you've gained. So that opportunity at my Bible study gave birth to another opportunity to speak to, another group of women in my church, and on and on. And so I started to see myself now being in those spaces where I was supporting other people. And even though I'm still studying accounting, I'm realizing that, wait, this is actually more fun.
Hello and welcome to The Peculiar People, where we create content that helps you to optimize your decisions so that you can enjoy your careers, your relationships, and your leadership. So today we're in part 2 of Colleta's story, and boy, was part 1 very interesting. So if you missed part 1, there's a pop-up banner that will appear right now. You can click on it and go to part 1. But if you're in part 2, welcome and let's dive to it.
We'll see. So one day she comes to my house and she says, I have this document that I need translated. It's very urgent and I don't have time to sit and chat. So here is the document, and once you do it, I'll pay you at, the rate that, I normally pay translators. And I said, oh my gosh, I need to return this document because I don't think I can do this. But then I also like a good challenge. So I looked at the document. It was like 4 or 5 pages. And to this day, maybe Felicite made up that document so that she could just like shake me up a little bit. I don't know. And so I took it and I read through it and I thought, I can translate this. And I did. And then I shared it with another friend of mine called Angel, who is francophone. And she read it and she said, wait, this is great. And so I sent it to Felicite, and she sent me some money, and I was like, okay, that's another thing I can do.
So I like some highlights on your story that I think would just like to emphasize here. First is the fact that you went to this new space, you're trying out something new, but it's not working, right? So instead of focusing on what is not working, you chose to focus on what you have gained, and there you're able to find out the time with your kids and how you can support your husband and all that. I really like that, so that I guess sometimes when we find ourselves in spaces where things don't work, we tend to get lost in just focusing on what is not working, But I like what you say, that you chose to focus on what you had gained instead of what you had lost. I also like the fact that you looked for a need. You sought a need, and when you met that need, now that made sense for you, and it opened other doors for you. I think that's very important to highlight, just the fact that there's actually, instead of waiting for things to come, you can actually go and look out for a need. And then finally your friend just throwing you into the deep end.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I think those are really important nuggets that we can pick out from your story.
Yeah. Everyone should have a friend like that. Yeah. I think it's important. So I've dipped my toe into translating. I'm teaching English on the side. I'm getting opportunities to speak to ladies and just different things. So I'm kind of, I'm getting some sort of a calendar now. I'm getting full. I'm no longer trying to fill up my days. Okay, and then I got an opportunity to volunteer for an NGO that was not too far from like where my kids went to school, and I took it. So so this opportunity came to me through a friend of mine who was working for an NGO, and there are some of these things that in any work setting you probably they need to be done, but you sort of don't have time to do them. And so when I said to this lady, you know what, I could do it. I could read stuff for you, write proposals or whatever, just anything that will help me help you. And so that opportunity opened up for me, and I went into this NGO, and I was doing a bit of translating, a doing, a bit of writing proposals, and I enjoyed it. And I only did it like in the mornings. After I dropped my kids to school, I would go there and stay there up to midday, when I would now go pick them up, and then I would have the afternoon. I think 2 days a week is when I taught English, and then rest of the time, with my kids and all that. So things were working, and I started to feel like, it wasn't gloomy at all. And then I was discovering these things inside of me, and I can teach, I can train, I can just inspire people, and I'm enjoying it, and I'm seeing results as I'm doing it. So what does that tell me? That there's a lot inside of me that has just been sitting there, and this move and being in that uncomfortable space has helped me to think and spring into action. So that was an important discovery for me. Now, the interesting thing is that at this NGO, an opportunity opened up. And there was funding for a new project, a youth project, and I was asked if I could, run it. And I said, why not? I've never run a project like this before, but hey, there's always a first time. And so I looked at what it entailed, and we were just about to sort of conclude on the contract, and then we get the news, we are moving from Burkina Faso.
Oh no, I'm sure that was unsettling.
This time we're going to Burundi. So, I mean, of course, we knew that we weren't going to be in Burkina Faso forever. And we knew that as soon as the project ended, we would need to move. And so it wasn't totally unexpected, but did it have to come when I just had an opportunity to start running these projects? But anyway, so it did. And we said adios to Burkina Faso, and off we went to Burundi.
So what, just before we go to Burundi, what happened to this project?
So they found someone else to run it.
Okay.
Yeah, there's, there are always people to do stuff.
Yeah.
So, which was all right. And what I didn't mention is that in those dark moments and difficult moments, and by at some point I sat exams, traveled to Kenya, sat exams, went back to Burkina. When the results came, I had passed one paper and failed one paper, and I had invested so much money and so much time in this. So it was a low moment, and so I started to just write, journalize my feelings and my thoughts, and sort of look at how God might be growing me through these experiences. And I started to share, some of these things with people, just sending out. At that time, I didn't know about blogging. So I just used to send emails to friends and family back home. And then they would share with their friends because they found these things inspiring. And I remember one time I didn't write, I used to call it yours truly or something like that, and I would send it every Monday, like just as an update of this is what's happening, this is what I've been learning, this is what God has been teaching me. And so one Monday I didn't write, and I got an email from someone I didn't know, like, where is today's inspiration?
Wow.
And I thought, people are reading these things. So now it stopped being about me sharing what I'm learning, to now looking at how it's being a blessing to other people. And so even when I didn't feel like writing, or if I didn't have anything to write, I always made an effort to just look for something, even if it's a quote or whatever, to just share with people. So, all these things now have opened up, different sides of me that had not really been expressed before. And so by the time we go to Burundi, I have even registered for a writing course, because I realized, I'm enjoying writing, so why not just learn it properly and use it. So I registered for this writing course, and it's interesting because it was just from some newspaper cutting I had seen many years ago. I probably had always wanted to do a writing course, I don't know, because how did I end up with a newspaper cutting from the Nation newspaper? And then I realized, I can actually send a message to these guys, and so I started, I applied for it. But then, since I knew we were going to move, I gave them the address of my husband's office in Burundi, because they were going to send a bunch of material. It was those distance learning things, so that happened, and we moved. And so by the time we got to Burundi, we found the material waiting for me. And so I just started learning slowly, and different things. And interestingly, now in Burundi, I already have a certain sense of awareness that opportunities are always there. There will always be challenges that people are facing, and I just need to look inside of myself and see, do I have the knowledge, the skill, or the gifting to handle this challenge? So which challenge matches my knowledge and skill and whatever. So I kind of went with that thought. And so I think, our first, I don't know whether it was our first month or our first whatever, we had been there very briefly in Burundi when I met this guy. He came to like welcome us. He was a Kenyan, so he came to our house with his family. I think we had met at the church, at the international church, or someplace. I forget exactly where we had met, and so we had invited him. So when he came, so we were chatting, and so what do you do? He asked me, and I said, I translate documents from French to English. I write proposals. So he said, did you say you translate? And I said yes. And he said, I have something that's really been bothering me that I would want translated to English so I can understand it well. And so it's a book. I think it was about 250 to 300 pages. And he said, can I bring that? And I said, yeah, bring it. Let's take a look and see what it looks like. So he brought it. I took a look, and I said, it looks like something I can do. I was very enthusiastic. And he asked me, how long do you think it's going to take you? And I think I said something like 2 months or something, I forget. And he asked me, and what's your quote? So at the time, I think the rate was something like $10 a page or $12 a page or something like that. So I gave him, and he said, okay, I'll bring you an order, an LPO, and then you can do the job. So here comes the job. And I started to do it, and I realized this thing requires you to sit down and work on it for hours on end. And I had already given some deadline which I wasn't too sure whether I could meet. And then it occurred to me as I was doing it that, you're doing this translation, and you're gonna need somebody to read it and edit it, because you wanna present a perfect job. So now I asked myself, man, how am I gonna handle this? Because I had not even factored that in, the amount of money that I asked for. But I said, since, it's my first project, so to speak, like my first big project, and I want to do a good job, I'll still go ahead and look for someone to do it, and I'll just, pay them from what they're paying me for this work. And so I was introduced to a gentleman who, did a fantastic job reading through my work and editing it and, giving it back to me on time. And when I presented it back to the person who had given me the work, he was happy. So when the payment came, I paid this gentleman, and I realized, it's collaboration. It just occurred to me that you need to know people who are in certain fields with whom you can collaborate and work together. So collaborating with people, very, very important. And so Burundi was somewhat of a breeze with regard to finding opportunities. And I don't know whether it's because I was, I kind of went ready, having the Burkina Faso experience.
In fact, that's what I wanted to ask. Would you say that it's as a result of what you had gone through in Burkina Faso? Because in Burkina Faso you went looking. So do you think you gained some experience there that made it easier for you in Burundi?
Of course, the volunteer experience was fantastic, because that's what now helps me to realize that, to hone my skills. Even when I did that little translation with Felicite, it was the first, but when I was volunteering for this NGO, I got many more opportunities to, to translate and to write proposals, and so that was priceless. Okay, and even the teaching English, I was doing it on voluntary basis and speaking to the ladies. So all these things, worked to help me hone those skills and also to gain more confidence. And they forced me to also research some more, because when you're called to go and speak, then you have to do a bit of research, right? So they helped grow me in that way. And one thing I forgot to mention about Burkina Faso is that I was asked to join the board of of the school that my son went to, and so I joined the board, the finance committee, and then I was elected to chair the finance committee, and so that allowed me to use, just a little bit of my experience in finance and accounting to serve on that board, which I found worked well for me. So I wasn't like totally letting it go. I had some opportunity to use it, and it was a blessing for them and for me as well. So all these things worked together to just grow me as a person, and also to kind of just feel that, shall I call it, the yearning that I had to be of service and use my skills. So in Burundi, opportunities came, and interestingly, the next opportunity that came after that translation, again, was a guest visiting us at home. She had come into, I think she had been sent to drop a key or something, and so turns out that she was, so again the question, what do you do? And I tell her what I do and what I have done and what I am doing, and she goes, I think we could use some of those services. And she told me, they have this, they've been trying to come up with a manual, financial policies and procedures at their place of work, and so they want to come up with that and even get it translated into French, and then now implement it. And she said, can you do that for us? I said, I can, but I can't translate from English to French. And but I can do the manual for you. And then I remembered that I had worked with this guy who now who edited my work and all that. And I said, how about if I introduce you to somebody who can do that? And she said, go ahead. So I introduced him, and he was happy to do the work. He did it very well. After I'd written the manual, then it was translated, and then it was time to implement it. So I spent a good chunk of my time. Again, it was an NGO. At that NGO, just implementing those policies and procedures, and working with these people, just supporting them, and it was fantastic. And this time, it was not volunteering. It was I was being paid for it. So it was great. And so at some point now, the country director of the NGO was looking for somebody to come in the admin to now support their administration. And so she asked me, is that something you would be interested in considering? I said, yes, I would, except we are moving again. We are moving from Burundi.
Wow.
So this time, we were moving from Burundi to Zambia. And so I packed my career in the suitcase.
Once
again. And went over to Zambia. And now, interestingly, so I've talked about the work, the work that I was doing, with this NGO and serving at the board and volunteering and teaching and all this. They are kind of little things, many of them, all right, but they were very important for growing me as a person. And I'm still doing my accounting studies. And in Burundi, I still continued learning French. And so we go to Zambia.
So just a little pause there before we go to Zambia, because I noticed that people are coming to you and to your house, and they're talking to you. Can you do this? Can you do this? Would you say that at that point you were like super confident or a master in translating? By the time they're asking you if you could do that?
No, I wasn't. I mean, it was still my French was still like just working knowledge. But then you see, once you understand the context, and you know exactly what this document is saying. And translation is not word for word. So it wasn't difficult to do. So it doesn't mean that I was a master or I had mastered the skill. I was still in the process of learning. And that's why it was very good to work with a good editor, somebody who could look and tell you, here but then the confidence was growing, because again, I realized opportunities are there. I just need to be able to speak up. And And then I also, was willing to take the risk, because I would tell these people, I've not done this kind of thing before, but if you give me the opportunity, this is how I'll approach it, and this is how I'm going to do it. And they would be like, okay, let's go for it. And so, the opportunities came. And the other thing is that you say these people came to our house. Yes, they are guests. And so you see this question, what do you do? Sometimes it can be a bit dicey. And especially if you're used to seeing yourself in relation to the work that you do. Oh, I'm a teacher. Oh, I'm an accountant. Or I'm a marketing manager. Or I'm a CEO of XYZ. That's easy to roll out of your mouth if you're actually doing, that right now. If you have that position and even a business card to show for it.
Yes. And I think that's important to highlight, because people hesitate. When they think that here's an opportunity, but I'm not confident in this. And you said something important there. You took a risk.
Yes.
You didn't know, you're not a master, but you took that risk. And even in the interview rooms, people are very shy to say I have done this, because they're afraid that they'll be asked to do it, yet they feel like they're not a master in it yet.
Yeah.
So it's like they're waiting to be very good before they can say I can do it. So I think that's a very important aspect in your experience that we can learn from.
Yeah, taking that risk, and also the way the way you introduce yourself. I talk about articulating your value proposition, and sometimes, yes, it can sound like you're blowing your own trumpet.